Arsenal are in the semi-finals again, and this time feels different. Let me ask you something before we get into all of this. Do you remember where you were when Arsenal knocked out Real Madrid last season? That electric feeling when the Gunners showed the whole of Europe that they were serious contenders. Well, last night at the Emirates Stadium, Arsenal did it again. They booked their place in the Champions League semi-finals for the second season in a row, and this time they did it quietly, without drama, without panic, without a single goal on the night. And you know what? That might actually be the most Arsenal thing about all of it. Sporting CP came to North London with one job: stop Arsenal from scoring, make it messy, make it ugly, make it uncomfortable. And honestly, they did a decent job of exactly that. But here is the thing: Arsenal did not need to score. Kai Havertz had already done the hard work in Lisbon last week with a late goal that gave the Gunners a 1-0 advantage going into Wednesday night. So all Mikel Arteta's side had to do was not lose. And they did not lose. That sounds simple when you write it down, but holding a clean sheet in a Champions League quarter-final second leg, when the entire crowd at the Emirates is nervous and the other team is pushing forward, hoping for something, anything to keep them alive, that is not easy. That takes a solid defence, a smart game plan, and a group of players who trust each other completely. Arsenal have all three of those things right now. So let us walk through the whole night together, from the team that started, to the performances that stood out, to the ones that disappointed, to what is waiting for them in the semi-finals. Because there is a lot to talk about. The night started well, but did not stay that way, If you were watching from the beginning, you will know that Arsenal actually started the game really brightly. There was energy in the team, there was purpose. The main reason for that was Eberechi Eze. Now, Eze is not a player you always talk about when you are listing Arsenal's big names, but on nights like Wednesday, he is the kind of player who can completely change the way a team attacks. He was everywhere in that first half. He was the one picking up the ball, turning quickly, driving at defenders, and making Sporting CP very uncomfortable. Almost everything good that Arsenal did in the first half came through Eze. He was sharp, he was clever, and he looked like a player who really wanted to be on that stage. If Arsenal had taken a goal early in that first half, a lot of the tension that followed would have disappeared, but they did not score, and as the half went on, Sporting started to find their feet. The clearest sign that the first half did not fully go Arsenal's way came when Sporting hit the post through Jenny Katamo just before the break. That was a moment that made every Arsenal fan in the stadium hold their breath. One goal for Sporting and the whole tie would have been turned on its head. But the post saved Arsenal and the half ended 0-0. In the second half, the game became a bit more open. Arsenal had a couple of good moments, the clearest being when Leandro Trossard hit the post late on and Gabriel Jesus went very close at the near post, but no goal came. The match finished 0-0 and Arsenal went through on the away goal from Lisbon. So was it a great performance? Not really. Was it good enough? Complete. And in a Champions League knockout tie, good enough is exactly what you need. The player who stole the night, if one player deserved to be the story of the evening, it was Martin Zubimendi. If you have been watching Arsenal closely this season, you will know that Zubimendi has had some games where he has not been at his sharpest. He has had nights where things did not quite click and where you could see that he was still finding his way at the club. But Wednesday night, that was a completely different Zubimendi. He was rated 8 out of 10 by the match ratings team at Goal, and honestly, watching him, you could see why. He was calm, he was smart, and he was always in the right place. What was really impressive was not just what he did without the ball. That side of his game is always decent, but what he did with it. He was driving forward when he could. He was starting attacks. He was looking to make things happen rather than just sitting back and staying safe. For a midfielder who has sometimes been criticised this season for being too cautious, this was a real statement performance. Zubimendi looks like the player Arsenal signed him to be. And if he can bring this version of himself into the semi-finals against Atletico Madrid, Arsenal's chances will be significantly better. Now, here is a question for you. Do you think Zubimendi has finally found his feet at Arsenal? Is this the beginning of him really taking over this team? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because honestly, this is a conversation worth having. Declan Rice, the man who never panics. Then there is Declan Rice, good old reliable Declan Rice. He took a whack on the ankle early in the game, the kind of hit that would make a lot of players ask to come off or at least slow down. But Rice, he dusted himself off and kept going. He was rated 7 out of 10 and once again showed that he is the kind of player every big team needs. Someone who is always there, someone who does not panic, someone who keeps things simple when everything around him is getting complicated. After the match, Rice spoke to TNT Sports and he was in a very good mood. He said the team was delighted that going back-to-back in the semi-finals is an amazing achievement and that they now want to go one step further. He also brushed off any criticism about the performance, saying that when teams come to the Emirates, they always set up in a defensive way with 5 at the back and that the spaces simply are not there to play through. He made a very good point. This is not a new problem for Arsenal. When they play at home in Europe, teams come and park the bus. They sit deep. They make it impossible. It happened last season and it is happening again this season. The Gunners did not quite solve that puzzle on Wednesday night, but they did not need to. Rice also spoke about the upcoming Premier League clash with Manchester City, saying that his boys will be ready and that it is simply about how much you want it. That is the kind of attitude you want from your midfield leader. No excuses, no fear, just confidence. Eze Shoney bright but could not keep it going. We already talked about how bright Eze was in the first half, but it is worth coming back to this because his performance tells you something really important about where Arsenal are as a team. On his best days, Eze is genuinely one of the most exciting attackers in the Premier League. He has pace, he has skill, he can score and he can create. When he is on it, defenders do not enjoy their evening. And in that first half, you could see all of that. He was lively, he was direct, and he was the main reason Arsenal looked dangerous. But in the second half, he faded. Tiredness caught up with him and his impact dropped. That is not a criticism exactly, because fading in the second half of a big European match after putting in a lot of work in the first is completely normal. But it does ask a question. Can Arsenal find a way to keep their attacking players fresher for longer in these big European nights? Is the system working hard enough to protect the energy levels of the players who matter most in attack? Think about it this way. If Eze had been as sharp in the second half as he was in the first, Arsenal might have grabbed a goal and the whole night would have felt completely different. That is something Arteta will have noticed and something he will want to address going forward. The front three disappointed, and that is the truth. Here is the honest part of this blog post. The front three on Wednesday night were not good enough. That is just the truth, and there is no point pretending otherwise. Noni Madueke struggled badly. He was rated 3 out of 10, which is a really low score, and looking at the match, you can see why. His touch let him down throughout the night. He found space, which is the one thing you want as a winger in a game like this, but he did nothing with it. When you find space in a Champions League quarter-final and you still cannot make an impact, that is a real problem. And then there is Victor Gyökeres. Now, this was a strange one because Gyökeres is usually a very reliable striker, but Wednesday was not his night, and the reason might be pretty obvious. He was playing against his former club. Sporting CP was the team that made Gyökeres famous. He scored goals for fun there. He was their main man. And coming back to face them, not as a Sporting player, but as an Arsenal player, trying to knock them out of Europe, that is a psychological situation that is not easy to deal with. Whether it got to him mentally or whether he just had a bad game, the result was the same. He was poor technically, he could not get into the match, and he was taken off before the hour. What do you think was going on with Gyökeres on Wednesday? Was it the emotion of playing against his old club, or was it just one of those nights? This is the kind of debate that the Olivia Sports Arsenal community thrives on, so share your opinion. Gabriel Martinelli was the best of the three, but that is honestly not saying much. He worked hard, he put a good shift in, and he tried, but he could not make the kind of impact that a big moment needs. He got a 5 out of 10. In fairness, Martinelli did sound very positive after the game. He spoke to TNT Sports and said the whole dressing room was buzzing, that they deserved to be in the semi-finals and that everyone was happy. He also acknowledged that Atletico Madrid will be a completely different challenge to what they have already faced. The subs made a difference when Arteta made his changes. Things did pick up a bit. Kai Havertz came on for Gyökeres and immediately looked more comfortable on the ball. He did not test the Sporting keeper in any serious way, but he added quality and calmness to Arsenal's attack. Max Darman also came on and lifted the crowd when he did. He was direct and tried to make things happen every time he got the ball. He is a young player, but he has no fear, and the Arsenal fans love him for that. Leandro Trossard came on late and almost scored with a header that came back off the post. If that had gone in, the Emirates would have erupted. So close. And Gabriel Jesus also had a really good run into the box and went close at the near post. It was not to be, but both late substitutes showed exactly what Arsenal can do when they bring fresh legs into the game. Arteta got a 7 out of 10 for his management of the match, and that feels right. His changes made a real difference. The team improved in the second half because of the decisions he made from the bench. That is good management, and it is the kind of decision-making that wins you trophies. History's been made and it deserves to be celebrated. Let us stop for a second and appreciate what has actually happened here. Arsenal are in the Champions League semi-finals for the second season in a row. They have never done this before, not once in their entire history. So when people say this is a historic achievement, they are not exaggerating. This is genuinely new ground for the club. Last season, they went out to PSG in the semi-finals. That was painful, really painful, but they learned from it. And now they are back with another chance to go one step further and reach the final. The final this year is being played in Budapest. Imagine Arsenal in a Champions League final in Budapest. That is not a dream anymore. It is a real possibility. But before they can think about Budapest, they have to get past Atletico Madrid. What Atletico Madrid means and why Arsenal should be confident. The semi-final draw gave Arsenal Atletico Madrid. On paper, that is a tough tie. Atletico are one of the most experienced sides in Europe when it comes to knockout football. Diego Simeone has built his entire career on making these matches horrible for the opposition. They defend deep, they are physical, they make life very difficult, and they are dangerous on the counter. But here is something very important. Arsenal have already beaten Atletico this season, not by a narrow margin either. They absolutely destroyed them 4-0 back in October during the league phase. That was one of Arsenal's best performances of the season. They were absolutely flying that night, scoring 4 goals in a ferocious spell, with Martinelli getting one of them. Now, Martinelli himself said after the match that the semi-final will be a completely different game, and he is right. Atletico will not let that happen again without changing something. Simeone will have watched that 4-0 defeat very carefully, and he will have a plan to make sure his team is not exposed in the same way again. But here is the other side of that coin. Arsenal know they can beat Atletico. They have done it already. That is a really powerful thing mentally. When you go into a semi-final against a team you have already beaten this season and beaten convincingly, you carry a confidence that is very hard to shake. So who do you back in that semi-final? Arsenal or Atletico? Think about it seriously and share your prediction in the comments. This community loves a good debate, and there is no better one than this. The Premier League is still happening too. One thing that is easy to forget in the middle of all this Champions League excitement is that Arsenal are also right in the middle of a Premier League title race. On Sunday, they face Manchester City. That is a massive match in its own right. City are the kind of team that punishes you if you are tired, distracted, or not at your best. And after a high-pressure European night, the risk of carrying some fatigue into Sunday is real. But if you listen to Declan Rice after the match, he was not worried. He said he knows the boys will be ready. He said it is about how much you want it. And this Arsenal squad has shown all season that they want it very much indeed. Their record across all competitions this season has been really strong, and Rice pointed that out himself. This is a team that is built to compete on multiple fronts. They have the squad depth, they have the mental strength, and they have a manager who rotates intelligently and trusts his squad. So Sunday's City match is not just a Premier League game. It is a chance for Arsenal to show the whole country that being in a Champions League semi-final has not taken anything away from their focus on winning the title. Can they do both? Can they handle City on Sunday and then go deep in Europe? What do you think? Is the squad big enough and strong enough to compete on both fronts? The atmosphere and the emotion of the night, something that did not come through in the player ratings but is worth talking about, is the atmosphere at the Emirates. These are the nights that the fans live for. A Champions League knockout tie under the lights at the Emirates with everything on the line is an experience that supporters treasure. And while the match itself was not the most beautiful game of football you will ever see, the emotion in the stadium was real. Every clearance was cheered, every tackle was appreciated. Every time Arsenal kept the ball and kept Sporting away from their goal, the crowd breathed a little easier. And when the final whistle went and it became clear that Arsenal had done it, that they were through to the semi-finals again, the reaction from the fans told you everything you needed to know. This club is going places. The fans believe it. The players believe it. And after last night, there is very good reason to believe it too. What comes next? So here is where Arsenal stand right now. They are in the Champions League semi-finals for the second year running. They face Atletico Madrid in what will be an unbelievably tough tie, but one they have every reason to feel good about going into. They have a huge Premier League match against Manchester City on Sunday, and they have a squad that is hungry, focused, and playing with real belief. The players are buzzing in the dressing room. Martinelli said so himself. Rice said they want to go one step further. And Arteta, the manager who has built all of this, still has big decisions to make, but has shown all season that he is capable of making the right ones. The question now is simple. Can Arsenal go all the way? Can they handle Atletico in the semi-finals and make it to Budapest? Can they keep pushing in the Premier League and give themselves a real chance at the title? Can Gyökeres find his best form when it matters most? Can Zubamendi keep performing at the level he showed on Wednesday? Can Eze stay sharp across 90 minutes when Arsenal need him most? These are the questions that will define the rest of Arsenal's season. And here at Olivia Sports Arsenal, we will be with you every single step of the way, breaking it all down, sharing every opinion and enjoying every moment of what is shaping up to be a truly special season. A final word before we sign off, before we wrap this up. Let me bring it back to where we started. Arsenal went to the Emirates on Wednesday night needing just a draw. They got exactly that. They did not produce a perfect performance. Some of their players had a difficult night. The scoreline was not exciting, but they are in the semi-finals, and that is what this stage of the season is about. Not beauty, not goals, not highlights for the social media clips. It is about getting the job done, about holding your nerve when the pressure is at its highest, about trusting your teammates, your manager, and your game plan. Arsenal did all of those things on Wednesday, and they move forward. History has been made and the journey continues. So stay with us here at Olivia Sports Arsenal. Tell us what you think in the comments. Tell us who you back in the semi-final. Tell us whether you think Sunday against City is going to be a win. Tell us whether Gyökeres needs dropping or whether Wednesday was just a bad night. This community is built on honest opinions and real conversations about the football club we love. And right now, there has never been a better time to be an Arsenal fan. We are going to the semi-finals. Again, come on, you Gunners.